What's good, everybody? Big Kev from Big Kev's World back at you here with another video. Thank you for all the new subscribers that have subscribed so far. Got a lot of rave reviews for that interview inside the square circle with the wrestling with the wrestling show. Matt and Kate are great people. Um, I like going over to their content because this title that I'm about to do is about to say why pro wrestling is a dying breed. And I'm going to explain, well, at least my opinion on why I think pro wrestling is dying. So, um, one of the reasons, but before we get into that, thank you for the new subscribers. Um, Thank you for all the love and support so far. And before we get started, if you like what you see, press that like button, hit that subscribe button, smash that bell for all the notifications that you get from myself. And without further ado, let's get into that. So, pro wrestling has been dying for a long time. Not just recently, not because of it, AEW, or not because of this, not because of that. Pro wrestling has been a dying breed for the last couple of years, maybe the last 10 years. In specifically, the last 10. Um, we really haven't, WWE really hasn't had a real big competition. And I know some people are thinking, well, AEW's around, they're competition. No, they're not. You're fooling yourself if you think that way. And yes, AEW is a new company. They're like 2.5, 3 years old. So I understand that argument that some people have used with that is that, hey, they've been around for just a tiny little bit. But why pro wrestling is dying, I'm going to give you a couple reasons. Number one, there's no stars. Besides maybe Roman Reigns right now, there is really no big star in professional wrestling. Except you have your Goldbergs and your Brock Lesnar's and your Chris Jericho's, your Stings, your AJ Styles, your Edges, your Seth Rollins. I mean, I'm talking about like Hall of Famer guys, like your John Cena's and all that. Randy Orton and all of them. I'm talking about people. I'm talking about bona fide Hall of Fame guys. You don't have that big name status all around the world now. You don't have it, and that in itself is a particular reason why I believe the wrestling is dying. I mean, WWE's got a lot of great young talent. AEW's got a lot of talent. The problem that I have with AEW, and this is why I can't get into AEW. Now, I do like what's going on with Eddie Kingston and CM Punk. I saw that segment on YouTube, loved it. My problem with AEW in this particular situation is they try so hard. And yet the WWE is guilty of this too. The wrestlers try so hard to do these acrobatic, athletic stuff. And I know that people are ooh and eyeing of that, but there's a lot of botches, not just from WWE, but from AEW as well. And you AEW fans, if you don't want to admit that, then you're fucking fooling yourself. There's a lot of botches going on right now in both companies. And the fact of the matter is, it's what Stone Cold said. I remember I was listening to Stone Cold's podcast. I think it was about last year around the pandemic. And Stone Cold was saying, well, the problem with professional wrestling and the problem with the wrestlers are is they're not slowing down, they're not telling a story, and they're doing all their moves. They're trying to get all their move sets in, and they don't save anything special for the pay-per-views. That's lost in professional wrestling. That is what's lost. That art of cranking up the knob when you need to crank it up. And the problem is when I watch Dynamite, or if I look at some clips of Dynamite, or if I look at some stuff of NXT 2.0, if I look at SmackDown or Raw, I see the same old shit on both companies. It's the same fucking shit. Oh, let's see if I can do an acrobatic move. And then, people want to make fun of WWE for using zombies in a match, but yet it's okay for AEW to use Ghostbusters and someone dressed into a big old steak puff marshmallow man costume, but that's okay. Another problem with professional wrestling is the wrestling fans itself. Because I have to say this, we were spoiled. We were spoiled. Because back then, we had WCW Nitro, we had Raw, and we had ECW, but mainly WWE and WCW. But we were spoiled. We were spoiled rotten. We had all this glamour and all this. You can go to Walmart back then, or you can go to like any retail store, and you would find wrestling shirts out the wazoo. I used to get a bunch when I would go and do that. You find like a bunch of wrestling shirts, and they would be there. But, and then WCW went out of business. WWE bought them. And, we were all sitting there like, what do we do? What do we do? And at that point, some people like to make the comparison that Vince McMahon only did the Attitude Era to beat WCW in the ratings. And that's probably true. And once he did, he can go right back to what he wanted to do. And that's keep his company PG. Because once you take a company public, business-wise, once you take a company public and you're getting stock, and you got stockholders to answer to, and you got advertisement people to answer to, and just a whole list of things. So, in a way, Vince McMahon kind of fucked himself by doing that whole entire thing with WWE in the first place. Taking that company public, it drew him money. Don't get me wrong, but it's still, you get what I'm saying. What's up, Boston? I don't know if you want in on this or not. I mean, I can send you the link. I'm just talking about why pro wrestling is dead as a whole. I think maybe if I can get through to some people on here, it won't be as bad. StreamYard. All right. So while I'm sending this little thing to people right now, you guys, thank you for waiting patiently. When you get older, your eyesight's not as good as it used to be. And what's funny, though, is the fact that people attack Poston for having a different belief. And that's another thing, too. People attack other people because they have difference of opinion. That's another reason why wrestling is in the fucking shitter that it is in the first place. Because when you would, that's the thing. We wrestling fans, we were so freaking spoiled with everything that we had during the Monday Night Wars that we all, anytime we see a company come up, we want to have it. So,
What's up, man?
What's up?
I was putting in. I'm doing a background check. I figure I'll go ahead and take a little bit of a break though for the sheriff's department. So I'm having to put in a lot of stuff, man. I'm having to get all that stuff done as quick as I can. I got to get some other stuff going. So that's what I was doing. Actually, I had an interview earlier today. So yeah, been pretty busy today so far.
It's an awesome thing. I was trying to explain to the masses why pro wrestling's been dead for a while, and and I'm glad you came on. I'm glad you came on because I see you get a lot of heat for just voicing your opinion that you don't like AEW wrestling. And
yeah, dude, I get like a lot of heat for that. But I mean, I won't say that I get a lot of heat, but the ones that do give me heat are absolutely zealots. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree, dude.
It's just, I think one of the main reasons why wrestling has died is because of fans, the wrestling fans themselves. We the wrestling fans, most of these guys are on YouTube now, grew up during the Attitude Era. That's all they got a chance to see. And they didn't get a chance to see wrestling back in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, early 90s. Some did, some didn't. But all they got to say was the Attitude Era. Everything was great. The ratings were high. The key demographic was high. Key demographic didn't mean shit back then. It still doesn't. But yes, and even y'all's Mr. Tony Khan has said on numerous occasions that the key demographic back then didn't matter. So if y'all's Lord and Savior Tony Khan is saying that, then obviously I'm just letting you guys know. But yeah, the reason why it's died is because you got all these guys, you got the dirt sheets, the way the internet's blew up in the early 2000s. The internet blew up, and you were able to catch everything on dirt sheets. You had Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez that was telling people stuff. Now you got all this social media like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You don't even have to watch the show now. You can just go on YouTube and watch the highlights, or someone might have recorded a match or something before it got taken down. You can see a pay-per-view match that you wanted to see. And that is the reason. That's one of the main reasons why the wrestling has died, because you fans have allowed it to die.
I think another reason why is because we grew up in the territories, and they used to build up stars, and you had all of these companies. So like Big Kev couldn't make it in one territory. He lives in the Tennessee. Let's say he can't make it in Tennessee. Him and Mel may move to say, St. Louis and wrestle for their promotion. He may go down to Georgia and wrestle for their promotion, or Texas. So just because he couldn't make it in one territory doesn't mean that was the end of his career. Maybe they didn't have a spot for him. Maybe the position that Kev was looking to fill in that spot was open in another territory. So he would build up his name, and you had all these stars being created, from Bruiser Brody to Kerry Von Erich to Ric Flair and Arn Anderson and Harley Race, and you had Jimmy Fly Snuka, and you had all these stars being built up that ultimately the WWE could go ahead and cater to. If we're building up if we're building up a gentleman Chris Adams as a great heel here in Dallas, and gentleman Chris Adams goes to say fight a Ric Flair, then that's almost a main event, caliber match right there. That's a big match. So you had all of these territories building up wrestlers, and they all had localized booking agencies. And you still had Dave Meltzer back then. You can go back and look up the old wrestling books. I think I got one somewhere. And it's Dave Meltzer writing articles on wrestling back then. However, what you have right now is it's almost like it's a parody of wrestling anymore. Ever since Vince went ahead and exposed the business as being fake. You had two major companies, which was WCW and WWE, and up until that point, they could keep each other afloat. But whenever WCW went down, well, it was ultimately destined to die. And like I said, you look at the fans right now, and they're just going through motions, basically. It's all marginalized. There's nothing really exciting about either product, any product going on right now. I see some products trying to do, I think the last time that I actually seen a product actually take any chances was Impact, and that was probably back in 2014, 2016, whenever we were doing the little Impact Revolution and stuff. They were taking chances with their characters. They were developing pretty decent characters. They were developing interesting storylines. But you're not getting this out of AEW. I mean, whenever, and I've said this before, so you know my position on this. And I think you agree with me. You saw the little promo with Eddie Kingston. I said that Eddie Kingston was one of my more favorite wrestlers in AEW. The guy has a lot of potential. But that being said, we've seen how passionate he delivered his promo to CM Punk. It was really good. It was good. It should have been great, but it was just okay. And the reason why it was just okay is not necessarily he was putting in a tremendous effort, a great effort. But when you're sitting there talking about COVID and when you're talking about all of this other stuff going on, people don't want to hear about that because you turn on MSNBC, you hear the shit. You turn on every commercial on YouTube. Oh, COVID this, COVID that. It grows hard. So when you're giving him this material to go out there and you put it into your show, used to back in the days, whenever Kev and I would sit there and watch, say, Hulk Hogan or The Rock or Stone Cold or The Undertaker, they were something to aspire to. And to me, they've kind of diminished these people. Oh, well, we want them to be more, we want people to be able to identify with them more. And there's nothing wrong with having a wrestler that, you can identify with. Big Kev can identify with The Undertaker. I can identify with The Rock. However, it was something that we inspire to. They set the bar high for us to go ahead and achieve something, because if The Undertaker came out and started, taking this soy approach in his mannerisms, then Kev's going to be like, well, I like this guy and all, but yeah, it's kind of, it just takes you out of that moment, I think. And so I look at AEW and I see a lot of soy in AEW. And in fact, you take that and you with the fans being so sycophantic and so just out there and over the top about everything, like Wrestling Jesus said, and I totally agree. They take it too far. They take everything too far. And this is where you get the censorship culture. They can't handle other people's opinions. And I sent you the video. What this all started over was, Dark Horse sent me a link to the CM Punk promo, his first promo. I wasn't too enthused about it. I like CM Punk, but I didn't think that the promo just kind of felt flat to me. And that was my opinion. And you can see as he goes through the comment sections and stuff like that, he becomes more aggressive until he's just plain out insulting and, oh, you better like this and all this other stuff. And that's just how every A&W wrestling fan acts. That's why I call it A&W. That's why they don't get any respect from me. I'm not gonna bow to cry bullies on the internet. And, you can do whatever the hell you want to, but it's not going to bring you any kind of the attention that you're looking for. You're not going to get it into your product. You're chasing more people out of your product and you're trying to bring in the NBA fans. You're trying to bring in the NFL fans. But for some reason, these fans who have a product that's substandard, that hasn't achieved the level of success of any of their, products that they're trying to compete with, they haven't achieve, but they feel like they're entitled. You would think that AEW is drawing in these big ratings, and it's not. And a lot of people don't have that interest because of how arrogant and stubborn the fans are.
You know that. I'm glad you came on too, Polson, because I was going to mention you in this video. The one thing that I've always noticed here recently with your videos and how people have been portraying and attacking you, or kind of like making their little comments here and there, I look at it like this: wrestling is subjective, and to a degree of, you know, you have actually said some nice things about some AEW wrestlers. You said you like CM Punk, you like Christian Cage, we all grew up liking Sting, you like Eddie Kingston. So you really haven't fully, like, what people don't seem to get in their brain is that you haven't fully shit on the product. You have just shit on Tony Khan and the AEW fan base. That is what you've shitted on. And that's what I shit on.
And I think that's what Brad shits on too, for the most part. The matches are botchy. I'm not gonna sit there. The in-ring work needs a lot of work in AEW.
Right.
You know, the matches don't look solid. That's an issue with AEW for the most part. A lot of that has to do with these guys coming from different companies to work in AEW. So they're not familiar with each other. You know, it takes time to get that chemistry down. It takes time to get something right when these guys are working with. I don't put it on the guys. I know that Christopher Daniels can go in the ring. I know he's one of the best to do it. And I understand this. However, you know, when these guys get together and everything is overly choreographed, and this is an issue I had with WWE, especially with like Daniel Bryan, is everything was overly choreographed in his matches to make Daniel Bryan look like the star. And whenever I'm seeing like Randy Orton have to put himself in position to go ahead and cater to a Daniel Bryan move, well, that just takes me out of the match. And I've had people say, oh, well, you need to suspend belief. No, absolutely. You're asking me to dumb down myself is what you're asking me to do. And it doesn't, you know, that's not the way that wrestling should be. And I see that a lot in AEW right now. And I'll ask you this because I heard this on the Smarkbusters channel from the Chilean Smarkbuster. And he said, you know, he brought up something, you know, that made me think a little bit is, do you think that it's possible that WWE could be jettisoning all these indie guys out of their company and trying to bring in a more predominantly wrestling fan base and go back to appealing to the fan base that they were, that's not your demographic for damn sure, but, you know, trying to bring back a casual fan base, casual interest, and going away from these indie-fed guys and trying to send all the, I guess what you would consider the toxic fans, because let's be real, WWE ratings aren't killing anything neither, and a lot of that has to do is because they were, you know, appealing to what you now call yourself the AEW fans, a more toxic fan base that has no desire for wrestling to actually get better. And in fact, a number of these guys just make videos trashing the product and, you know, without even watching it, not giving anybody like Roman Reigns or Bobby Lashley or various other stars out there just because of their size, just because of their profession, just because they you know, have a pedigree of some sort in wrestling. They're not going to give those guys a chance. And I look at the fan base. This is one of my things with the Daniel Bryan thing. And actually, I think Triple H used it in one of his promos, was that they want somebody that they can identify with. So they would rather have the gamer type of guys that eat Hot Pockets and sit in their basements. That's what they want. They want those kind of guys. But that's, like I said, a marginalized fan base. That's a very marginalized fan base, and that fan base doesn't get ratings. Other people want people, they want to watch storylines, and they want to watch people that they can inspire to be. They don't like the story. Like, I was watching, and it was horrible, but I think it was, you remember the feud with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns? I remember seeing a promo where Jay got into the ring and he's crying, and it's all soap opera like. It's all very soy, and that doesn't inspire me at all. It just no. So I think that getting rid of a large amount of these fans that are jumping on board with AEW actually probably works in the benefit of WWE to bring back in potentially the casuals. We see what they're doing with Brock and Roman. That's good stuff. They have Bobby Lashley there. I still think that, like, if you go back and look at, take aside what WWE has done with Bobby Lashley, with the Braun Strowman thing, wasn't great. Some of the matches looked really, really terrible. I'm not going to lie. However, you go back and watch Bobby Lashley in TNA whenever he was working with Eddie Edwards and smaller guys. He's a bigger guy, and he's working with smaller guys. Right, and those matches are really solid. They're really good matches. You really don't know what to expect. The matches tell a story in and of themselves, along with the stories that they keep, putting on. It was really solid matches. The TNA was doing really solid work at the time, whenever all these AEW fans were sitting there trying to jump on board with NXT. But nobody really would get involved in it because it was TNA and people looked down on it. Well, now these same fans want us to go ahead and invest in AEW, which is more of the spot fest stuff that they were doing in NXT and WWE.
Right.
And it's, why would I get involved in that? It's spotty. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look organic. Nothing. It all seems superficial. You have good wrestlers in there. I'm not going to lie. Some of the guys I like. Some of the guys, they're really cool. Some of the guys I feel really deserve success. However, with that being said, the company is so bad, it's not going to happen here. It's not. And you can look at it. You can tell by the guy who's in charge, by all the money being thrown in it, by how toxic the fans are, that it's not a formula for success. So why would I invest into a product, regardless if I like the guy or not, if I know it's not going to succeed? You watch NWA, I watch NWA. That's a winning formula to me. Impact, breaking away from AEW is a good thing. We've seen how this affects ROH. And to be honest with you, if AEW is doing anything, it's making WWE look better right now, and it's killing the independent market out there. What do you think about that, Kev?
Honestly, when I look at AEW and I look at a bloated roster. I look at a roster that they brought in the first time around, and I'm like, when they first came out, I was like, okay, they got some established people they can do, but the problem is Tony Khan was, we got to take away Aleister Black, now we got to take Rusev, now we got to take Sting, then we got to take Big Show, then we got to take Mark Henry, then we got to take Christian Cage, then we got to take this guy, then Punk, then Bryan, and Cole, and I'm sitting there thinking, where does that leave other promotions? Where does that leave Ring of Honor? We just saw what happened to Ring of Honor. Where does that leave in NWA? Where does that leave Impact Wrestling? And by the way, that little partnership with Impact and AEW, that did not benefit Impact at all. They had Kenny Omega come on there acting like a goof on Impact Wrestling. And you have Don Callis from Impact Wrestling on AEW. And it really didn't benefit Impact. It benefited AEW, but it didn't benefit Impact. And I'm looking at it, if you're going to have a partnership, it has to benefit both companies, because you're trying to strive to make sure that you guys can try to take away the New York Yankees, the Dallas Cowboys of professional wrestling, which is WWE. Now, WWE has got a lot of great young talent too. And yes, some people are like, oh my God, I can't believe they released Keith Lee. I can't believe they released Cross and all that. And I'm like, it's like what you said, and I believe it. And I see it with NXT 2.0 now. WWE's going away from the independent circuit. They're going into the whole homegrown, I'm going to grow my own talent from the tree, like they did with The Rock, like they did with Roman Reigns, like they did with John Cena and Brock Lesnar and all of them. They're bringing in an Olympic gold medalist next year, Gabe Stevenson, who signed with WWE. UFC guys have talked about wanting to come to WWE over AEW, and I'm sure that probably didn't make AEW fans feel good about it. The one thing I like about NWA is I used to watch on Saturday mornings back then. I used to watch USWA, which was the Memphis Wrestling with Jerry Lawler and Jamie Dundee and Jeff Jarrett, Jerry Jarrett. And they would talk to they would have the interviewer, talk to the wrestler, they would come face to face, and then they would go right straight to the ring. And they would do their business. And I don't know how you feel about this, Poston, but for me, I look at people in wrestling now and I'm not intimidated by anybody. Like when I look at a guy like Bruiser Brody, I was intimidated by him. When I see a guy like Andre the Giant, I was intimidated by him. Undertaker, I was intimidated. You don't see that presence, maybe except for maybe Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar and maybe Bobby Lashley, but you don't see that. There's nobody in AEW that scares me on a physical standpoint.
I agree. Outside of Sting, maybe. That would be the one guy that if you've ever seen, I've seen Sting in person here in Belton, and I'm telling you, the guy's still in phenomenal shape. I mean, he's one of them guys that can get in there and go. But I don't see a guy on AEW really, to me, that I'd be like, oh wow, I bet that dude can kick some ass or something like that. I see, some of them look like unsavory characters, really, at the end of the day. And there's nothing wrong with it, because I wouldn't say that the fucking Road Warriors look like upstairs. But do you remember the Missing Link? See, these guys need to go back to the 80s and see that character that was developed by that man and the intensity in that character. And basically, whenever I watch AEW and how they interact with the fans, it's almost in a condescending way. It's almost like they're saying, oh, okay, well, y'all are here to see us because we're stars and you're not, as to where back in the 80s, they had a character, they developed a character, they very rarely, like Undertaker, he's doing interviews now, but you never seen the Undertaker do this shit back in the days. You know what I'm saying? He stayed in character all the time, and that's what made him great. You know what I'm saying? He invested to that, and he committed to that. Now, do I think that The Undertaker was at home sitting there saying, "Rust"? No, probably not. He was probably out doing his own thing. But for the most part, whenever it came down to the fans, whenever it came down to the shows, he stayed in character and he stayed committed. It's one of the things that I appreciate by Rosemary and TNA. Regardless, I know her matches don't look so great right now. She's kind of lost a step ever since her injury, but she is committed to that character, and she put forth a lot of effort, which is basically what Alexis Bliss, that's what she stole her character from, pretty much, is just she's pretty much doing the same thing that Rosemary did. And Rosemary was the first one to do it, and she stayed committed. And so that's why I like that character. That's why I like BK. And because you could get invested. She was telling a story. She committed to that character. And whenever I watch these little interviews that Tony Khan's putting on with your Darby Allin, and he's out there, he sounds kind of like, man, he sounds like a retro 90s character. Like a Beavis and Butthead type dude. That's what he sounds like. And then you have Mark Henry, drunk as all hell. And fucking Mark Henry's a legend. He's a beast. That's another believable guy that they have on that roster. But he's over there trying to clown and stuff. And, Mark Henry you should be a beast. I'm going to beat the man up. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hurt people. That's all I'm here to do. But, he's over there acting the clown and acting a fool, kind of like Shaquille O'Neal on the fucking NBA press conferences and stuff. And it's like, it kind of takes me out of that. Mark, you're a beast. Be a beast in AEW. Go. You know what? You should be taking Darby Allin by his ankles and using Darby Allin to beat up Orange Cassidy. Just swing him like a bat right into Orange Cassidy. That's what Mark Henry should be doing. That's what he's there for. And, you bring in your guys like EC3 to come out and fight Mark Henry because EC3's, of that size. He could do that. He's a competitor. And so, which EC3 I think's in ROH, but I'm sitting there saying that I'm using him as a reference, you know. And there's no real organization in the product at all. It's just flinging a product out there, half-assing it is what Tony Khan is doing. Let's be real. And you know, D has the talent there. You've seen it. And like I said, you know, I've always praised Eddie Kingston in that company. So, you know, it's not like them that's just like, oh, well, you're just a hater and all this other stuff. And I have my reasons to be against, because it was AEW, it was you fans, particularly you guys out there that are sitting here having your little opinions and thinking that your opinions mean more than everybody else's. It was you fans that went ahead, got together, got me and Andre Corbill suspended, kicked off, banned from Twitter. It's the same ones that got me kicked out of No DQ. It's the same people on the left, whenever you're pointing out the discrepancies in their reports, that cannot take, you know, criticism and pointing out these deficiencies. They can't do it. They just suspend you. AEW is ultimately cancel culture. This is the same thing. And all they could do is get together in their little groups and sit there and make little ad hominem jabs at people. But they can't bring any real facts. They have to manipulate facts. Look at what they're doing with the statistics right now. They're saying that it's the key demographics. We're losing in the statistics, but in the key demographics, we're winning. But you don't even know the key demographics. Let's be real. And so everybody mocks you. Everybody else that's an independent, that is not controlled, that has no invested interest, are looking at you. Brad Rules, WJs, Markbusters, Vince Russo, any other of these old school like Disco Infernos that understand the business. They understand the practice. The only ones that are actually coming to your aid are the people with invested interest in AEW, people like Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez. They're the ones doing all the manipulation, but in no way, shape, or form have they had any kind of real success. And a lot of it outside of maybe the first show. Now, you said you watched the first show. I watched the first show, and I did the numbers. I crunched the numbers, and it got 1.4 million. So that's all the TNA fans. If you did the math, let's just go ahead and use the Twitter, because that's, you know, predominantly where AEW markets to anyway, is Twitter. You go ahead and do the math. Take all the AEW fans, take all the NWA fans, and then you add it to the fans of AEW, and then you'll come to that first rating that they got. And they've never gotten back to that rating, because you've alienated, since then, you've alienated the TNA fans with Tessa Blanchard and various other things that you've done to go ahead. You've alienated the NWA fans, as much as I don't like the guy with Jim Cornette. So, yeah, you know, you've caused a lot of trouble. You've caused a lot of rift with these other companies. Well, now they don't want to invest in you. And then you go and see how you act towards the WWE fans. And the WWE fans, well, particularly all these fans, TNA, NWA, they're the same ones that come up and say, because they like my memes, whether it be on Facebook or me just making, you know, blasting AEW because of their censorship culture. These are the same people that are asking me, man, do another video on AEW and sit there and do the ratings and do all this stuff. They're asking me that because they're annoyed by you, the fans. That has nothing to do. And I'm not a big fan of Tony Khan or how he's been running anything, and, you know, using, you know, the Twitter method to go ahead and promote a wrestling product. Don't get me wrong. With your Cody Rhodes and your social justice warriors, I'm not a fan of that stuff neither. Right. But because of the fans, it is because of the fans that AEW gets as extreme hate, not only just for me, but from across the internet. It's mainly the fans. And they don't understand that. They just keep doubling down. Well, keep doubling down. People are going to be more annoyed by you. Keep manufacturing ratings. Keep using placebos. Go ahead and spread this among your echo chamber that is quickly becoming less and less relevant. You know, it's not going to hurt me whatsoever. So you can go ahead and take shots at TNA. You can go ahead and take shots at WWE. You can go ahead and take shots at NWA. You know, I'm not invested as much in those companies as you are in your company. I think that ultimately what should happen, and I've had this conversation, I think you and I both agree on this as well, is that everybody should come together, your Impacts, your Aztec Undergrounds, even the House of Glory, Masterpiece, Wrestling, EFED, and whatnot. Major League Wrestling, ROH, if it does come back, ROH, all these, New Japan, should wrestle under the banner of NWA again. That's what I actually believe. I believe that will help the business. You know, just wrestle under that banner and then redevelop a territory system. That's what I think would be best.
You know what's interesting is that even though me and you have the same opinion on stuff, on certain wrestling things, we may have a difference of opinion. At least we'll actually discuss it like this. What you see from the AEW fan base, and I've seen it happen here, if one main person on their group says AEW's good, Poston sucks, Impact sucks, blah, 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 then everybody else jumps on that bandwagon instead of having a mind of their own to undermine it. I mean, like, look, if you don't like AEW, that is that's my opinion, that's Poston's opinion, that's anybody else's opinion. As a matter of fact, that last video I did about Tony Khan, I got this from my Twitter. I'm going to read it to you. To be honest with you, the worst part for me is Tony Khan running his mouth and the legends and former WWE guys that keep bringing in. Tony Khan actually does this company disservice every time he opens his mouth and exposes that he's a giant money mark. So that right there shows you that there's some fans who are not really that very fond of AEW. Now, when I had Matt and Kate on the show from the wrestling show, they have 29,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel, and they have their love for wrestling is still there. But what they decided to do is like, hey, forget what WWE's doing, forget what AEW's doing. We're going to do our own stuff, and we're going to promote our own videos, and we're going to get our own fan base. And that's what happened. And it's like what that girl Kate said on my interview. The problem with AEW is AEW's got some athletic people. WWE's got some athletic abilities, wrestlers who can do death-defying stunts. And I'm not saying there's anything against it, but the one reason why I like a guy like Randy Orton is because he slows it down. He's methodical. That's why Randy Orton has been called by Ric Flair, who some people would argue that Ric Flair is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, has said that Randy Orton is these generation's best wrestler, pound for pound wrestler. And people can go ahead and say, oh, no, he's not. He's boring. Yeah. But look at all the botches that AEW does. I mean, there's nobody in that ring that's believable to me that could come in there, and if I was wrestling, to take my head off. And Stone Cold Steve Austin said on a podcast once that the problem with WWE and AEW both together is the wrestlers are trying to get all their moves in instead of trying to tell a story. Instead of doing all your movesets on Raw and SmackDown and AEW Dynamite and Rampage or whatever else you're doing, save it for the pay-per-views. That used to I used to love watching the pay-per-views because they would do moves that you've never seen them do before. And that I think that's been lost in wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. And I could tell you right now, because, I know that this probably, I could only imagine I rolled my eyes whenever I heard it. And I can only imagine that most of the people who ever watched the product rolled their eyes too. Whenever CM Punk said that and it's funny because the fans were saying it as well. Whenever he said it was equal to whenever Nash and Hall went to WCW, that's what him and Daniel Bryan going to AEW was like. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, it was if that's the case, then it's a very, very lame version of it. But with that being said, I would probably expect, for me personally, a guy like Randy Orton and John Cena going to AEW would have been closer to what Hall and Nash was than what what CM Punk, because CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are essentially the same. They're basically like these lucha guys that do these high flips and all of these acrobatic types of spot wrestling is what I call it. It's not real wrestling. It's more of a version of acrobatics, and that's kind of what they do. Mm-hmm. Having a John Cena or a Randy Orton come in would be like the outsiders. They don't fit the mold. They would be different than what the traditional product calls for. So them coming in, going out and bringing in this whole new line of, tough, technical, in-ring, solid, in-your-face, ground and pound wrestling, that would be different. Having Daniel Bryan and I would probably consider CM Punk going to AEW closer to Bret Hart going to WCW. That's what I would consider it, more or less. And like I said, Daniel Bryan's pretty much the same. It's just like Bret Hart going to WCW. He didn't really make much waves, but that's because it was already set up. He was a big name in WWE, but I don't think that he fully transitioned to WCW when you had Hogan, you had Hall, you had Nash, you had the NWO, and it wasn't impactful. And that's the way I see more or less the CM Punk on a smaller scale. Now, with the big, Bret Hart definitely has a bigger following than CM Punk. He had a bigger following than Daniel Bryan. But on a smaller scale, that would be closer to what it is for today's product. People are familiar with CM Punk, but CM Punk's not that big of a draw. People just don't go lining up out here in Texas to go see CM Punk, or up there in Tennessee. It's not a big deal. In Chicago, it's a big deal. I get it. You know what I'm saying? But it's not a universal. I like CM Punk. Don't get me wrong, but he's not that big of a. He's not that big of a draw that's gonna. If he would have, I'll give him this. If CM Punk would have left WWE, served out his month, went through his contract, and immediately came back to Impact Wrestling instead of going to UFC, then that would have changed the business, because he would be coming in, he'd still be hot. He was just on WWE, and now he's going to Impact Wrestling. But 7 years out, gets beat up by Mickey Gold, gets beat up by Malik Jackson, and now he's going to save AEW. He's missed his Overton window. He missed that Overton window. So now it's just going through the motions again. That's Daniel Bryan probably had more, and you could tell this is unequivocally true. The ratings went up higher for Daniel Bryan than they did for CM Punk. And that's ultimately because Daniel Bryan left WWE, he was released from WWE, and he didn't wait around, wait 5 or 6 years and then go to AEW. He went to AEW immediately. So that's why he ended up being more marketable. As far as today's wrestling fans would be more familiar, you have people out there, and I've seen videos on this, and this also triggered the AEW fans, is that some of these people didn't even know about Punk, even back from whenever he was doing his pipe bomb. Some of these fans didn't even know about Punk because he's been out for so long. And they did videos saying, well, I didn't see anything significant or great about him, but everybody was talking about how he was going to save the business, so I tuned in, and it wasn't that great. And they have no connections. They don't remember the same shit that the pipe bomb promos, the Summer of Punk. They don't remember that. It's already past that time. And so with CM Punk coming back now, he has to reacclimate himself with today's wrestling fans. And so far, from what I've seen, I mean, it'd be me, dude. I would have Eddie go over CM Punk. I'd have Eddie Kingston go over CM Punk, because I know what I can get out of Eddie Kingston, and I think that Tony Khan just has delusions of grandeur of CM Punk. That would be me if I was booking the show, because, like I said, I feel like Eddie could be that formidable heel. There's something there for Eddie, but CM Punk, he's not The Rock. He's not at Hogan's level. He's not even at the Bret Hart level, which I just mentioned. He's just at that level for the marginalized fan base. And that's what AEW is catering to, is a marginalized fan base. And I think that for AEW to sit there and take shots at WWE and to take shots at these other promotions, understand one thing. If WWE doesn't bring in a fan base, if they don't get any interest, then your product is never going to get any interest. You're going to have to rely on WWE to build up stars. You're going to have to rely on WWE to bring back the wrestling fan for anybody to even be remotely interested in watching AEW. And this the way that, well, like I said, you see the videos all the time. You see the videos. We don't even have to mention these guys, and they'll still mention us. But you see the videos of them, and they're not spectacular. You could tell that it's all conjecture, basically, and that they are not offering any kind of real outside analysis, other than people who are paid interest to go ahead and promote their. Oh, well, this is what matters, and they're looking at this, and we're going through history, and then you're having to go ahead and move that goalpost. Whenever the original argument was, is CM Punk going to go to AEW? Is this going to bring some renaissance? Is this going to bring a new Monday Night Wars? Is it going to bring the ratings into AEW? Are they going to start competing with WWE? And the answer was a big, resounding no, which I said in the first place. And all of these other, ultimately, they've already lost the debate. You've already lost a debate. You're already wrong. But ultimately, all of this other stuff is just practice for me. It's just, at that point in time, it becomes trolling, because you're back at 900. No, it's at 800,000. Dynamite was at 800,000. You're going back down to the numbers that you had back in July. And ultimately, a large portion of that has to do with the fan base, has to do with the marketing. It has to do with the target audience that Khan was promoting to and trying to bring in. Like I said, they're under the illusion that leftist identity politics and social justice warrior issues are still the popular they're the popular issues in society, and they're not. Particularly whenever you have people that are out of work, whenever you have people getting laid off because of some placebo, or you have people constantly being, attacked by various organizations, you know what I'm saying, pushing their agendas, trying to take more money out of people. You still think that this is popular? Absolutely not. So, that's part of the reason why people are, I don't want to watch a social justice warrior. I don't want to watch social justice wrestling. You know what I'm saying? I want to watch a product where I can go ahead, get away from the politics, get away from the mainstream media narratives and all this other BS. I don't want to have to hear it inside my product, and that's a major problem for AEW to begin with. And then you take the fans being exactly the same way as everybody that's on the left. Well, nobody really, nobody really likes hanging out with these people. Nobody likes, going around and having, because it's always something. It's always some bullshit drama. And so, people get tired of that and they want to move on. So,
and I think about it too, and I look at CM Punk. If CM Punk would have stayed at WWE, if WWE would have kept that show, WWE Backstage, and if Punk was still on there, and no internet website said anything about Punk talking to AEW, and we, like, say for example, the day that he showed up on Dynamite, if he would have showed up 2 days ago on the WWE's Backstage show on Fox Sports, and then he would have showed up there and no one would have known about it, yeah, that would have caught a lot of us off guard. We'd have been like, holy shit, all right, this is cool. he showed up, but honestly, I haven't seen Punk really do much of anything since he's been back. I mean, and these are the same motherfuckers. And you know what I'm talking about, Poston. These are the same people who were laughing, making fun of Punk when Punk got his ass whooped at UFC. These are the same people.
Oh, definitely. And I whenever the said individual in question, right, that goes ahead and makes these little response videos that probably have very little to do with him, whatever. It was just the same thing, right, that I was sitting there saying, is if it would have been me bringing in CM Punk, I'm not letting fucking Brian Alvarez know. I'm not letting Dave Meltzer know. I'm be like, oh, well, we tried to get him, whatever. He's a dick. I might even fucking sit there and, go ahead and throw him off the scent and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then what I would do is I would go ahead, bring in CM Punk, bring in Daniel Bryan, maybe bring in a guy like Crimson, because Crimson's a bigger guy. Bring in a Madman Fulton, maybe a Braun Strowman out there now. He's available, right? You can get these guys in there. Bring in a Daniel Bryan. Bring in a what's the other guy? The skinny jeans guy, Adam Cole, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come in and then dress him in all black. Dress him in like a jumpsuit or something like that. Give him the old Immortal mask from 300, and then have him come in and interfere with the mask, and nobody knows about him. Nobody knows. They don't have an official name. It's a mystery and stuff like that, and just have him show up in various parts of the crowd and interfere, in different matches and whatnot, and go ahead and, decide outcomes or whatever it is in these matches and whatnot. And then, ultimately at the end of the pay-per-view, have, your big star Darby Allin, who you're trying to get over. I think that's their one homegrown talent that they've been trying to invest in so much. But I haven't seen anything particular to make me think that this guy is going to bring in those views or ratings for you. But it is what it is. You have Darby Allin and Sting facing, because you want, your bigger draw guys in the ring, right? So you book a match, Darby Allin and Sting versus Goldust and Stardust, or Cody Rhodes, or whatever the hell, American Nightmare, whatever he's going by now, I don't know. And you have that match between those two, right? Those four. And then all of a sudden, these Immortals come in and they start attacking everybody. And then at the end of the show, you have CM Punk take off his mask. He's the leader. Daniel Bryan, Adam Cole, Madman Fulton, Crimson, and Braun Strowman all take off their masks. And they're here to go ahead and enforce their will. They're here to take over AEW. We're going to go ahead, and then you can do something later on with Sting and Darby Allin with those guys, because you just got the interest. But they're going to go ahead and run roughshod over your Kenny Omegas and your Chris Jerichos and all of these other stars, just like they did in WCW, and that's going to get you interest. Having CM Punk come in and say, I've been out of wrestling since 2005, and when I started for WWE, I wasn't in wrestling in the ice cream bars, and Darby, you're special. That's not gonna do anything. That's cheap. That is the lowest of low-hanging fruits to introduce somebody. And Jim Cornette can mark out for it all he wants, but it just wasn't that great. It was a reverse pipe bomb. It is exactly the antithesis of what the pipe bomb was. And so, of course, a lot of people saw it. They tuned in. And they said, how lame. And then the second promo was even worse. He almost marked out for himself. And then the shit that he did with Christian Cage was even worse, because it sounded like he was inebriated whenever he got into the ring with Christian Cage. So it just, they could have done this stuff with Eddie Kingston. That would have been better than what they did. The promo that the segment with Eddie Kingston was far better than. And then later on, you want to get Darby Allin over, you could still do that. But let's go ahead and build up CM Punk. Let's go ahead and invest in CM Punk so he can get Darby Allin over. And Darby Allin didn't even go over in the match. So it just, I don't know. It falls flat. There's no real wrestling acumen in this whole damn company, apparently. Or they're not listening to the wrestling acumen that's in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna read this two responses I got for that AEW video that we did. And it was on Twitter, and these two guys wrote to me. This guy named Liquid Snake said that I totally forgot CM Punk was back in wrestling. Shows how great AEW booking is. And he said, I heard it. And I said, okay, move on. Really wasn't that big of a deal. Yeah, it gave them a bump in the ratings for a while, but after you actually see the famous comeback, you realize it's just CM Punk, the same CM Punk you had before the pipe bomb. The upper mid Carter CM Punk, people started turning out after you see him actually back. Then the mystique is gone. There's really nothing else about him. He's just CM Punk, an upper mid Carter level. And the guy says, this one other guy says, the worst wrestler in AEW is present at their world champion, Kenny Omega. Reason two is the worst tag team they got champions, which is the Young Bucks. And then reason three is the most overrated NXT superstar, Adam Cole, recently joined the man child of the Elite. And that's the problem right there. When you're building a stable, you know, it's like the Elite can't be touched on AEW. It's almost like you can't beat them, you can't touch them, you can't do that. I'm looking at guys who don't wear socks, who wear skinny ass jeans, who probably sit there at Starbucks, and they probably drink their Fago and eat their little. They probably drink their Fago and eat like chips, and it's just that's to me is what AEW is like. It's like this. Hey, we shop at Hot Topic. And that's just like that's what I'm gathering from AEW is I'm seeing this strand of guys who just don't impress me. And it's now I will say this about Daniel Bryan over CM Punk. I think Daniel Bryan's a better in-ring worker than Punk. Like as far as like pound and ground, because Daniel Bryan could do a pound and ground style. If Daniel Bryan went to a pound and ground style, I would like Daniel Bryan a hell of a lot more than I do now. But
I have to agree with that, especially like his backflip, because that was one of the issues that I had with Daniel Bryan is whenever he's fighting guys like Sheamus, whenever he's fighting guys like Kane, whenever he does that little backflip where he tries to flip over them. Well, they have to duck because he can't clear them. He can clear a Kenny Omega, which, by the way, I want to go ahead and put this on record, that if Kenny Omega wrestled in the 90s, he would probably be holding a sign, much like Lodi did in Raven's Flock. That's what he would be doing. That would be his position in the 90s until he could learn to develop a real, charisma out there and be able to go ahead and put on these. But Kenny Omega lost to a banana peel. He lost to a 9-year-old Japanese girl, which, it's, you could say what you want to, but, he's not the guy. He would be at best the mid-carder, but he would probably be the lower tier where he would be getting over guys like Raven, and Raven would be part of Raven's flock. That's what he would be. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a jobber. If you're a jobber like Disco Inferno, or believe it or not, like Billy Gunn, the New Age Outlaws, they were technically jobbers. They were constantly putting over other talent. There's nothing wrong with being a jobber as long as you do your job right. Kenny Omega would probably be a low-tier mid-card to maybe potentially a high-tier transitional champion. That would be his height. That's pretty much what CM Punk is. That's what Daniel Bryan is. They're transitional champions, but, high-end mid-carders that you could go ahead and put the title on, and then you can use these guys to get over other talent. That's what their talent, that's what they are on the roster. But to me, that's about the height of AEW. They don't really have any of that main event, and partially, part of the reason is because they have to rely on other companies and organizations to build up main event talents first before they could even get a main event talent. I don't see them doing it organically. I don't see them making homegrown talent right now with the current system, the current management, and the current issues that they have. You're not going to be able to create a Rock or a Stone Cold or an Undertaker. It's not going to happen. Y'all had Luke, it was Luke Harper, right? The one that passed away from COVID.
Yeah.
They had him. There's your Undertaker right there. But really, what were you doing with him? You know, the guy had all the potential in the world, but you look at all the stuff that's in it, and it's like, well, they're not using him any better than WWE was. So why would I watch your product? What are you offering me that's different than what WWE is doing? You mention WWE all the time, so I meant, yeah, it's not like they haven't had talent come through their company and try to invest and make this product a lot better. If it's not the wrestlers and it's not the entertainers, and if it's not that, then what's the problem? Well, it has to be the company in and of itself. One, Tony Khan, the management, how they're booking, how they're writing these stories, the narratives, which is hard in entertainment. I'll give him this. It's hard right now to do anything in entertainment because of cancel culture. It's really hard. But you're trying to implement these BLM storylines. You have Eddie Kingston come out. All lives can't matter till Black Lives Matter. That's a leftist talking point. It's identity politics. It's a bunch of wedge issues that people grow tired of. So by you going out there trying to promote this ridiculous crap that they're putting all over the media, it's a waste of time, and it's a waste. It hurts the characters that you're trying to develop, and it's not doing anything for your business. It's not going to bring in any new eyeballs into your business because everybody is fighting for these cheap little cliches that the left puts out there to try and go viral on Twitter or whatnot. And that's the truth. So you're already trying to market in a saturated market of social justice warrior identity politics bullshit. That's going to be your first spec. And then you have your fans being so cathartic, being so outrageous, being so over the top, being such zealots that nobody wants to go ahead and they don't want to commit to your product because the fans are so annoying and whatnot. They are. And that's all they do is constantly attack people for their opinions and whatnot. So, and then whenever you point out how lame their product is, when you point out the discrepancies in their product, whenever you sit there and point out how outrageous and over the top they are and how ridiculous they are, whenever I get these comments and whatnot, well, I'm attacking them somehow because of what they like. No, it's the exact opposite. You're attacking me because I don't like your product. That's what it is. And so, yeah, I was doing these AEW wrestling videos every other, month or whatnot. It wasn't as religious as it is right now, but I'm mirroring you. You know what I'm saying? The more you get out there, the more you sit there and do these ridiculous videos, the more I'm going to go ahead and keep using it, for people, because people want to sit there and see me dismantle all this ridiculous bullshit. I have a market out there, and I'm going to go ahead and cater to that market, even though AEW doesn't cater to any kind of real market.
The funny thing is too is what you were just discussing. I look at it too, like in the YWC right now. To me, it feels like you can't have an opinion that if it doesn't fit their narrative, you can't have that opinion. And and that's where a lot of this drama and all this bullshit starting to come about is because you make a video saying, oh, well, AEW's ratings are down, and then they have to make a response video to that. And it's like, can't you do something without making a response to every single thing? Because I'm looking at it like, I was able to do an interview with a YouTube wrestling show, and I almost got 600 views on that thing without even having to do anything drama, without having to say anything about AEW or anything like that. I did a TikTok Michael Jackson video, almost 200. So it's actually 200 views now, without doing anything about AEW. It's not the fact that people like posting to me needs to talk about AEW to get ahead. That's not the point. My biggest problem with this whole situation is that we just have the opinion that we just don't like what we see from AEW. But they forget the narrative that we've also talked shit about WWE. I'm not a WWE fanboy with the WWE flag going like this. I could tell you numerous of things wrong with WWE, I'm not sitting there saying WWE's all the way better than AEW. I'm not saying that. I'm saying from a real professional wrestling fan standpoint, I'm going to call out the good and the bad and the ugly on every single wrestling promotion, not just one, not just two, but all of them. And that is how you garner a wrestling fan base. You garner that because you have to go into it with that mindset. So when we make a video about Tony Khan, we get all this woke mentality guys coming out there after us. AEW's got the first ever transgender wrestler on there. Then when we talk about the AEW being in the red, I'm looking at an article right here that Tony Khan, and this was 4 months ago, Tony Khan clarifies AEW being in the red financially because of the last year, because of the pandemic, and earlier this year. But you want to know another reason why they're going to be in the red is because his dad owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars eventually, they don't make any money really in the NFL because their team sucks. But people don't want to talk about that, and people don't want to think about that. But then when you give some people like Nyla Rose, and you give Britt Baker, and you give Brandy Rose $2 million contracts, and you give John Moxley a $6 million contract, who's now in alcohol rehab. I mean, when you start doing stuff like that and you start giving out money like it's nothing, eventually that's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Now, people can say the same, oh, well, hey, Kevin, you can't say that because WWE's releasing all these people. They released all those people last year and they're still making all this money. Here's the thing with WWE. Yeah, they're releasing people, but at the same time, I mean, maybe WWE's trimming the fat. Maybe they look at some of these people and go, you know what? They're not what we want. They're not who we wanted. And we're just basically, I wouldn't be surprised if Vince McMahon subconsciously is releasing all these wrestlers for places like AEW, Impact, and NWA to pick up, because maybe Vince does secretly want competition. Maybe Vince secretly does want something in wrestling, and he's kind of got this little monopoly. He's like, I released Bray Wyatt. It's going to cause all this ruckus. And it caused a mainstream of ruckus. And these fans don't understand that senile old man that you guys claim is out of touch may not be as out of touch as you think he is.
And I got to sit there and think about that too. You look at, WWE pulling back, and it's funny because you remember I was the TNA guy here, right? The first independent wrestling fan guy that was supporting the independent scene. The TNA soldiers and stuff like that, where we were all coming out, we were all making our voices be heard. And whenever you look at a lot of the main pops coming back into WWE, AJ Styles, the Dudley Boys, the Hardys, Bobby Lashley, Bobby Roode, a lot of these guys were built up in Impact. So maybe he's looking for other talent to also get built back up through another promotion. So later on, he can come in. They'll have it would probably be a lot easier for him to offload these guys who are not drawing any real interest into NXT, according to the AEW fans. So if they're already losing ratings anyways, why not cut these guys that are not getting in the ratings, give other people an opportunity, maybe some of your own A&W wrestling fans. So I guarantee you that some of these guys would probably jump at a contract for the WWE to come in and compete. Wouldn't that be interesting to sit there and see the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega on NXT? Or what are you going to say? Are you going to sit there if they keep losing ratings? You know what I'm saying? Because, see, now they're stuck in this catch-22. See, they can go ahead and make these videos on how bad all these other federations are doing and that they're the real competition because they get all these views and whatnot. But ultimately, in good confidence, these other federations made deals with AEW, and it hasn't worked out for them. So, you can go ahead and talk about NWA. That has had people on their products, that has had agreements and has had partnerships with AEW, to go ahead and facilitate their product to make their product better, but their product hasn't gotten, it hasn't worked out in their favor, just like Impact, just like these other ones, So you taking cheap shots at these other promotions that you've had contracts with, it doesn't make any sense. It's a logical fallacy. It doesn't make your program any better. It makes your program look even worse whenever you use these other companies that are not having success and then try to compare your company with that's not having success. And that's the problem. And I think ultimately, as bad as I hate to say it, because I don't like WWE, there's only two things that could happen that could save the professional wrestling business. One, WWE starts to get, big again. They start to make wrestling more popular out there, something for people to inspire to and accumulate another audience, much like they did during the Attitude Era. Or WWE has to go out of business and AEW has to go out of business. And it has to go completely back to the independent territories where they're going to have to sit there and find a way to go ahead and get on network television again in their local regional areas and then come under a banner and reform and restart the territories again and go back to the drawing board and the territories. That's the only two ways that wrestling will survive. It's not going to survive with Tony Khan running shit, and it's not going to survive with the WWE board of directors and all of these people making pretty much a satire of wrestling. You're going to either have to fight, fuck, or get the hell off the fence. You're either going to make a professional wrestling show or you're going to make a little sitcom type of parody of wrestling. And
speaking of which, Paulson, I want to interrupt you, but there's an AEW, like, I got Tony Khan that wants to say a message. He wants to say a message to the Prodigal Hill.
Uh-oh. Not Tony.
Tony, man.
That wisdom now. I'm going to be enlightened.
Wait till you see this, Tony. He's an interesting fellow.
Well, I have. That's the most impressive thing that I've seen Tony Khan do since he came on the wrestling business.
I mean, Tony Khan was like, look, I'm tired of you and the Prodigal Heel talking shit about me. So I'm going to come on here and I'm going to. What's funny too, Post, is that these guys who claim to like Stone Cold and The Rock, but yet they can't understand your voices and why you go like, I'm like, if you look at The Rock used to go like, I mean, like it's a hypocrisy thing. I mean, the more you guys do videos about what he's doing about AEW, the more you're feeding it, and the more you're doing this, and the more it's almost like a broken record with some of these people. It's like, the more you say shit about somebody, the more someone's like, I could just start twisting around because somebody wants to be a real boy.
Yeah, it's kind of like me being 0-2 against Robbie Battle. I've already conceded that defeat, whatever it was, but whatever that defeat in his mind, that's how it begins, I guess. He's 2-0 against me, but yeah, I'm not sure what for. I don't know if anybody else is, but apparently he's 2-0 against me, and I'm still waiting for one coherent argument to come out of any of these guys, to be honest with you, because basically it's just about feelings. And, they're really having to dig really fucking deep to even legitimize their video responses, because you have to legitimize the low ratings for AEW. I don't have to defend TNA. TNA is not even its Impact now. I don't have to defend Global Force Wrestling. I don't. It's not around anymore. I don't have to defend WWE because I don't watch WWE. I haven't watched Impact since 2017. I do like what they're doing with Moose. I'm highly impressed with Moose. I think Moose is one of those guys that can come in and get a fan base behind him because he is athletic and he moves around very, very athletically for a guy his size, but that's because he played in the NFL. And so, there's stuff there to like. There's stuff in the Mystery Man in NWA. You know what I'm saying? There's stuff to like about that. And they can cut such good promos. Man, the characters in NWA are far and above anything going on in wrestling right now. Even with the Roman Reigns stuff, which I like the Roman Reigns stuff. But, just the charisma and the way that they present themselves, that old school style, man, it's hard, not to like it at all. And, you look, then you tune into AEW. AEW has guys on their roster that could probably compete on that level. But, it's all about dialect. It's all about how you're trying to present this guy. This guy says that he lost his house because of the pandemic. Sorry. Nobody wants that. Nobody's going to buy into that. It's ridiculous. I don't know what the hell they're thinking whenever they sit there and try to implement all this crap from mainstream media into their product, whenever they're trying to use identity politics, when they're trying to use, and Kev, whenever I was making those memes on religiously on AEW and No DQ,
yeah.
They asked me, why do you not like AEW so much? Why are you always picking on us and stuff? First off, you're annoying. First off, I just want to go and get that out. You've annoyed every other wrestling fan base. So everybody liked the memes. Everybody would share the memes. They would ask me to do memes. You know what I'm saying? And they couldn't understand why I had. And I told them, well, part of the reason was because, they got me suspended from Twitter. And you know what the first thing that this fucking genius asked me? Well, what did you say about Nyla Rose? And what it had nothing to do with Nyla Rose. You can give a shit about Nyla Rose. The reason why I was kicked off of Twitter is because I didn't believe in Allison Kay. Whenever she wanted to take the title off of Bobby Lashley, she wanted to be the female world champ. Whenever Tessa Blanchard worked her ass off to go ahead and become the heavyweight champion for Impact Wrestling with Sami Callihan, they were doing a great storyline. They put in all this work. Guess what? That got, it was Allison Kay and all these AEW women that were out there attacking it, because you can't have any fun with these Karens. And so, they did a really solid job at, promoting the match with Tessa Blanchard, and Sami Callihan had put in his work. She was taking serious bumps, and I defended it. That's why I got kicked off Twitter. It's exactly why. And the reason why is because you A&W wrestling fans can't handle anything for any other company getting any other kind of, that's doing stuff right, trying to promote something for their, which is why, this is exactly why you can't go under the AEW. This is why it's a waste of time to go ahead and, partner yourself with Tony Khan, with AEW. You've seen what he's done with New Japan. He stole their idea on how to sit here. New Japan was going to come in here, and they were going to essentially come in, and they were going to expand their product into the United States. And he took that idea, and then he marketed it, and then he put up his program based on New Japan stuff. You see how he's taking advantage of ROH. He's, ended up taking advantage of Impact Wrestling. He's taking advantage of NWA. Well, like I said, that 1.4 million was all the independent fans willing to give your product a chance, regardless of all the identity politics, regardless of all the Nyla Rose transgender stuff, the Sunny Kiss, LGBTQ stuff that you were putting in. They were still willing to work with you. And I was one of them that was supporting your fucking product. At the time, I have videos up. And basically, I seen exactly through this whole scam that is AEW. And all of these guys that are jumping on board, your Robbie Battles and your Dark Horses, they're just bandwagon jumpers. You know what I'm saying? They, it's all tongue in cheek with them. And this is one of the issues that I have, is because it's hard for me to take them seriously. Oh, they can go ahead and do their little research and go ahead and read their dirt sheets and use that as arguments, and thinking that it's going to somehow legitimize their argument. It doesn't. It's, like I said, it's all equivocal. And, the sheer fact that you have reading articles from people that have an invested interest in AEW, like Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer, it doesn't add any credibility to your arguments. Just because you make an argument doesn't make it a good argument. So, and I've explained this over and over. I explained my grievances with AEW numerous fucking times. They refused to accept it. Oh, no. Me and Andre both got kicked off. We both got suspended on Twitter the same day because of AEW. And then, I don't have to believe that. Well, I don't have to take your arguments seriously neither, Dark Horse. I don't have to. I don't believe any of your shit neither. So, yeah, how does that sound? And I mean, he knows. I've told him before, so it's not like he doesn't know. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Are you still there, Kev? Because my computer froze up, or my screen froze up.
No, yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
I'll go and let you take it.
Wait. Here's something I'm gonna say about this whole AEW thing and them trashing you and everything like that. Here's the facts, guys. If you watch Poston's video, if you watch it, his videos aren't like 2, 3, 4 hours long. Mine right now is like an hour and 26 minutes, but that's because we were talking about why pro wrestling is dead. That's a different story. But if you listen to some of the stuff that Poston tries to say on here, he said that he likes Eddie Kingston. He gave AEW a chance. There's some guys in AEW that he thinks is really good. But you guys don't hear that. All you hear is, wait a minute. Back in the day, he used to wave the flag for Impact Wrestling. I thought that he would be cool with being a part of AEW. Because he did it for Impact. Why can't he do it for AEW? That is the narrative that most of you have that mindset of. And I'm looking at it like, if he doesn't like AEW, he doesn't like AEW. What's it to you? Is it because, you guys want us to get behind AEW because we need to make pro wrestling better again? Is that how y'all look at it? If that's the case, then I get it. But to be honest with you, you're fighting a losing battle, because when I post a video on Twitter talking about AEW, and then I come on YouTube and I get a bunch of dislikes, I know that's from them AEW fans, because they can't just leave well enough alone. And a woman like Tessa Blanchard, I'm a real big fan of intergender wrestling. Like, I actually like it. And when I see Tessa Blanchard and I saw that match with her and Sami Zayn, I was impressed with it. And Tessa Blanchard's a beautiful woman, sexy as hell. And I'm sitting there thinking, AEW, if they really wanted to get their women's division going, that would have been the opportunity. You could have signed Tessa Blanchard this whole time. Her dad, Tully Blanchard's in AEW. You could have signed Tessa Blanchard. You could have had her and Britt Baker going for the women's championship, which probably could have made it better. But then again, AEW doesn't really give their women that much of a chance like WWE does, and like NWA does, like Impact does. Let's face facts there. And the fact that most of you guys are hating on Tessa Blanchard, I'm sitting there thinking like this. I'm sitting there when I look at, I'm going to find a really good picture of Tessa Blanchard here. I'm sitting there thinking, who the fuck? I think this woman.
And I'll be honest with you, Kev, whenever I first heard about this, the whole reason why I started watching Impact and the Tessa Blanchard thing versus, going to go out was to shit on it. Yeah, I was like, I'm not a big fan of intergender wrestling. It's one of the things that we disagree on. But whenever I saw the match and I saw the effort that Tessa and Sami put into it, it kind of like, well, this is impressing me. You know what I'm saying? You changed my opinion, Tessa Blanchard. What you did, it was really solid. What the work that Sami Callihan, which I can't give enough praise to both Tessa and Sami for what they did.
Yeah.
And so, I liked it. And so, I promoted it. I was like, this is fucking great. This is great. She's taking real life bumps. It's not going to be something like Allison Kate, where she's just going to win on a fluke and it's going to look silly and laughable. It was done right. And so, I felt like it was necessary for me Just like you think it's necessary for you to go on your little channel and sit there and cry about how I don't like AEW, that's what you do. I felt like it was necessary to go ahead and defend her title run because she worked hard. Sami Callihan worked hard, and it wasn't it wasn't right for a bunch of Karens to collectively come together and go ahead and try and demoralize and try to demean that accomplishment that was essentially going to help every damn one of them in the future. They, because of who? Because of Allison Kay's envy of Tessa Blanchard. I get it, but yeah, that's it. You know what I'm saying? I felt like it was necessary because they both put in a lot of effort to that. And if you go back and watch it, it was really solid.
Well, see, I actually watched a little bit of Tessa Blanchard on the Indies. On YouTube, they have these little wrestling promotions that do like YouTube videos, and I saw Tessa Blanchard wrestle other guys before, and she was aggressive, and that's why I knew when they put Tessa in that situation, I'm like, this is going to work. I mean, now it all depends on the woman. Now, I will say not every woman can handle intergender wrestling. I strongly believe that not every woman on there can. But when Tessa Blanchard went into the ring, not only with Sami Callihan, but she went into the ring 1-on-1 against Madman Fulton. And, she got her ass kicked, but still, she went into the ring with a guy that's nearly 7 foot tall and took his best shots. That was impressive to me.
I'll tell you another one that impresses me like that, and that's on the indie scene that none of these guys will probably talk about. But that's Casey Spinelli, man. Mm-hmm. She's pretty good, and she's very charismatic. She's a sweetheart, too, so that's why I like her. And, man, but boy, I was impressed because, I was used to talking to Casey Spinelli on Twitter and whatnot. Like I said, she's a great young talent, has a great personality. And so, but I wasn't as familiar with her wrestling, but she has a YouTube channel, Miss Casey Spinelli on YouTube. And she dropped some of her wrestling stuff on that channel. And I'm like, holy shit, you're actually pretty fucking good. I mean, as far as character, as far as being in where she does the intergender stuff, and she's not bad. And I'm like, yeah. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of intergender wrestling, and I would still go out there to say that I'm still not. But like Big Kev does, there are certain kinds of women, China being one of them back in the days, that can go in there and put on a believable show. And I don't think Allison Kay is one of them women, but I do believe Tessa Blanchard is. I believe Casey Spinelli is. Very underrated wrestlers out there. And so, I have to look at this. That's why I said that Eddie Kingston's the same way. Very, very cool guy. He would fit in. Think about it, Kev. If Eddie Kingston wanted to go ahead and get some extra interest into A&W wrestling, you know what he should do? He should join the TTC because he could do it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Giants fan. And you know how much of a following he would get just by, and there's not a shortage of irritation from the New York Giants for sure. Even though they ended up beating the Raiders this week, he could probably join the TTC and then hold his own.
To be honest with you, I look at a guy like, I remember on TTC, I know Mad Dog and Cop Pizzle and all those giant vid makers, they would welcome Eddie Kingston with open arms. It would be like, it'd be insane. Now, I can tell you this much. Some of these YWC guys could not handle being in the TTC. And I can tell you that right now. Because the guys from TTC are vicious. When they make videos of you, they will put your face on everything. They will make it seem like shit's coming out of your mouth. They will do some of the most creative things out there. And that's where I got most of my subscribers last time was doing the TTC and doing the trash talking and being with those guys. And that's the reason why, you know, when we do a lot of AEW videos, yeah, it gets views and stuff like that. But I mean, at the same time, I'm sitting there thinking like I'm not on there waiting to respond to somebody all the time. I'm not like I'm like you, boss. I mean, I got a life. I'm not waiting to be like, oh my god, this person said something about AEW. I have to respond now. I mean, that's not me. I don't look at it like that. I'm like, okay, you think this way of AEW, and I think this way of AEW. That's your opinion. This is my opinion. I'm staying in my own lane. Don't cross my line.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think you and I can, we can kind of cross the boundaries into TTC territory and do with those D-Town. D-Town was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Dallas Cowboy, so of course he's going to be one of my favorites, right? Duke Bothers, I like his stuff. So, you and I can kind of transition into the TTC and then back into whatever this is. They call it the YWC anymore, but, is it really, do you consider, because Wrestling Jesus comes back every now and again, and then you got the Smart Busters, and they all say, oh, well, the YWC is making fun of me. Who? I mean, do you consider Robbie Battle and Dark Horse? I mean, do y'all make up the entire YWC? Because Brad's point of view sees stuff from Brad's rules sees stuff from my position. Smart Buster sees stuff from my position. WJ sees shit from my position. Yeah, this is unusual territory for me. Don't get me wrong. But, yeah, y'all are kind of like a marginalized portion of what you consider the YWC. So, to me, it's, you have Twizzlemania. He's coming out, he supports me in my comment sections. Actually starting to get expand my subscriber base and whatnot, with your guys like Twizzlemania and George Bryce is back. And a lot of these guys who have had some sort of resentment for AEW all this time, they're coming across my videos now and they're like, yeah, we're agreeing with you on this. So it's not just, me making up sock accounts, liking my own videos and whatnot. It's, these people have issues with you too. So it's funny how you can claim you're 2-0 against me, Robbie, but yeah, I'm still failing to see any point that they've made so far. How they come across gauging a winnable interaction or whatever the hell this is. How am I? How did I lose? Can you please explain that to me, Kev? Because I don't know.
Okay, so I watched those comments and I saw them, and I'm sitting there thinking, first off, AEW is a TV show. Polson is an independent YouTuber. Polson has what? You have like almost like 1,000 subs, like 1,000.4 or 5 subs, something like that.
I think I have 1,400.
1,400. Okay, 1,400. AEW's got 2, 3, 4 million subscribers on YouTube. Now, some of their views that they get on those videos, I will be honest with you, some of the big YouTubers out there, like the Real Rejects, Tyrone Magnus, Jenna, there's a couple like Tristan Jazz that does basketball videos, and a couple other people. There are Jax Films, Jared Danes that does music. There are some independent YouTubers on here who actually get more subscribers and more views than AEW wrestling. So when you come out there and you say, well, look at that, Poston's only got 200 views here, but AEW got 800,000 views, you're making yourself look like a fucking idiot. I'm not trying to be mean, but you're making yourself look like an idiot. Come on there making that kind of argument. I mean, that's just, idiotic there. It's like a lot of brain cells being lost there, some odd fucking reason.
Yeah, I have no idea what their point was in that, other than what, because I made a response video to your comment. I thought it was kind of funny. I figured, you know what, your comments are not making it on my post. So, either you're deleting it or YouTube's deleting it. I don't know who's deleting it, to be honest with you, but yeah, I figured just take a snapshot and just start reacting to the comment section. Why not? You know what I'm saying? It'd be interesting. Look at this. This is what they're commenting. This is a comment from somebody. This is how triggered they are, because nobody's going to see them. Nobody's going to be able to see your comment on my post. And it's not me. It's not me deleting the comment, because I'd leave the comment on there for everybody to see how cathartic and over the top you are. But they're never on there. So I figured take the comment, make a video on it, and then they probably put a lot of effort into that comment.
I'm about to play I'm about to play a song to you, Post, and this song reminds me so much of how AEW fans talk on social media. And it's a perfect song. I mean, I think it is. It's a perfect word.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how they act like to me. To me, that's how they act.
Yeah, you're probably going to see MJF and see Chris Jericho do that in a not too distant future of AEW wrestling. And the bad thing is MJF has talent too. Holy shit! Could you imagine? Yes, yeah, Eddie Kingston and MJF on the WWE fucking NXT.
MJF is good enough to just go right past NXT to go right straight to the main roster. That's how good MJF is on the mic. He's got charisma. He's got a good body. He's pretty much what Vince would want.
And then you got Eddie Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
That he can do it as well. And could you imagine them with LA Knight, Eli Drake? You know what I'm saying? You got Bobby Roode on there. I mean, no doubt that there's talent on that roster if it's utilized right. And you have somebody with a vision that could get it all to come together and whatnot. Oh, man, I'm telling you. There's potential in the wrestling business today. But, there's no real vision right now. That's part of the problem.
That's one of the reasons why that's the reason back then I did a lot of those E-Feds. The reason why I created my own E-Fed, because I wanted to create what I think pro wrestling should be. And I was one of those guys when I was working when I had the TTC wrestling and FWE, I would go to other promotions that would do E-Feds, and I'd be like, hey man, let's work together. Let's cross promote. Like my champion would go on their show and face their champion. I had that mentality because I'm like, okay, well, they got their champ. Their champ's great. My champ's good. Let's see who's the better one. And, I had that mindset to it. And this is why I think WWE will be open for business to do stuff with other promotions. Because once Vince passes away or retires, Triple H is taking over. And Triple H has already gone on to say that when he takes over, WWE is open for business, which means he's open to have his champ, have Roman Reigns go to Impact and face Moose, probably.
Yeah, and that would be interesting. You know what I'm saying? They want to cut, ties with certain talent. Then Bobby Lashley to Impact, have him win the title, then put the title on Brock Lesnar, and then do some sort of work with Impact that'll help Impact out. You can maybe bring Bobby Lashley, Impact champion, to face WWE champion Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and it'd be a hell of a lot better than what we got out of Tony Khan.
I mean, their opinions against you, to me, is it's ludicrous. I mean, they want to come back at you about the whole, well, he's the one that waved the Impact flag. They like to throw that back at you and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I already know. I know NF Punk offered to do the debate with you on my channel, but I already know that once I give him the link, he'll give it to somebody else. I'm not stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, you look and it's up to you whether they come in or not. So, you know what I'm saying? And the sad thing is, okay, come on in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we're going to gang attack us. It's not going to make y'all look good. But y'all are going to do what AEW, I mean, stuff that we did back in 2013. That's basically what they're doing. It's just they're mimicking the same stuff that happened on YouTube back in 2013. And, it's not going to do any good for you. Last time that y'all gang attacked me, it didn't do any good for you. But, if NF Punk feels like it's necessary to go ahead and give the link out to, and, I can already tell you that somebody's going to be like, give me your yank, give me your yank. It's going to be fine. I'll make fun of y'all straight to y'all's face then. I'm going to go ahead and take it as condescendingly as y'all are going to take this video. It's going to go in one ear, right out the other. They're not going to in any way, shape, or form change their opinions, and I've already come to this conclusion. They're going to ride that ship all the way down. AEW is going to keep losing ratings. And a lot of it has to do with these ridiculous fans. Yeah, it does. Because, you don't see me going out and attacking ROH fans or New Japan Pro Wrestling fans,
No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. I do like Punk. And, I mean, when Punk was on Dark Horse's show recently, he actually was saying how much he liked Charlotte Flair. And there was somebody in Dark Horse's panel that was starting to attack him for having a different opinion of liking Charlotte Flair. And I'm sitting there thinking, it's an opinion. It's subjective. It's an opinion. Everyone's got an asshole. I mean, it's an opinion. I mean, I can go around and I can go and say The Undertaker's the greatest wrestler of all time. But then again, you can come back to me and say, nah, The Rock transcended wrestling. It's one of those things where they think it's a fun debate, but honestly, it's not a debate. It's just an opinion. It's a subjective opinion.
And I meant, you look at their effort, and it appears that my opinion happens to be the most popular opinion, even though they have a larger group around them, because my opinion is not only shared by me, and you have Brad, you have the Smart Busters, you have various other people. This thing froze up again. So, hang on real quick. Okay. Every once in a while I have to come back out, because whenever you show the videos, my computer or the phone freezes up.
Okay.
So that's why it stalls a little bit, so I don't know exactly what's going on. Do we have any comments yet?
No, we've had people watch and look, but they haven't said anything. I'm pretty sure they're going to wait and do a video later.
They probably are. They're probably saving their comments, their loose equivocals for a 4-hour hangout and whatnot. Even though we've been here for a couple of hours and whatnot, it's they're gonna, and especially if they play this whole video, if they play the whole video and respond to each and everything that we say, it's gonna take like 6 hours. Because they have to gang attack, they have to get in their, their support group and then gang attack us with 500 people that are probably loosely wrestling fans, that are more anime fans for the most part. And, for some reason, they feel like, trying to get these anime fans into liking wrestling, it's going to make the product. It's not. It's not. I mean, watch Sailor Moon if that's what you're into. What's the other popular animes? Because I don't watch them that much. Go watch Attack on Titan. I think that's one of them. You know, and yeah, go if that's your stuff. But you know, they all come in and they all attack us on our wrestling observation. Really, it is an opinion, but it's also an observation. We're observing this product, and we're just not liking where it's going right now. We think that wrestling could go into a better direction, and we think that there are probably more capable companies like NWA, like Impact, like ROH that has more longevity in the business, that have had more success in the business, that could ultimately take advantage of this collection of people that AEW has gotten together and make a sustainable product that would be better competition for the WWE. But I'm not seeing it in AEW.
Honestly, they're going to come back and they're going to say, "What, man? You guys like NWA? Look at their subscriber count on YouTube." I mean, it's just like it's all about the numbers with some of these people. It's like insane, you know, quantity versus quantity. You know, to be honest with you, you could be like a independent you could be an independent store, and you may not be making more money than Walmart, but your product could be better than Walmart.
Yeah, that's what they'll say. But whenever it comes to comparing AEW to the ratings of the past, whenever it comes to comparing AEW and setting AEW to a standard that is currently being met by WWE, and you know, regardless, and you print, then the numbers don't matter anymore. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's only a fraction of those numbers. So, you know, yeah, their arguments are just logical fallacies. It's hypocritical, is what it is. It's double standards. Rules for thee, not for me.
And to be honest with you guys, I'm not trying to hate on wrestling. You know, I grew up loving wrestling. I still have a passion for pro wrestling. That's why I'm doing one last FWE show that's going to be on my channel. That's why I had the wrestling show on an interview. That's why I'm working on trying to talk to Jordynne Grace on Twitter about getting her to come on and do an interview. I've been talking to her back and forth. The Impact wrestler Jordynne Grace. I've been talking to her about it. And,
yeah, she is.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been doing my homework and been doing like trying to interact with other things to basically not only make my channel better, but to get my name out there. I'm not out there I'm not gonna make a 3 to 2 hour video on a response video back to somebody else, because that's just, to me, I mean, if that's how people get views, and hey, that's on you. That you do you. But honestly, we're the casual wrestling fans. We're the fans that grew up watching the Bruiser Brodies and watching the Von Erichs and watching the Hulk Hogans, the Ric Flairs, the Terry Funk, the Funk Brothers, you know, the Black Jack Mulligan, Demolition, the Hart Foundation. We are the guys in our generation that went through and saw everything. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't for WWE, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon, there would be no pro wrestling right now on television. And you guys can go ahead and say what you want. I know Dark Horse made a comment saying, well, you know, Hogan was popular in AEW and then in AWA before WWE. Well, how did he get popular like that? He was on Rocky 3 as Thunder Lips.
Yeah, and he's just taking one of my arguments that I made, because you didn't care about Hogan whenever he was in AWA. You know what I'm saying? I knew Hogan loosely because my cousin was a big fan. Right. I was Von Erich's guy. You know what I'm saying? But he was a big fan of Hogan. And so, you know, you had those guys out there like that. And yeah, those guys but guess what? They had the territories to go ahead and rely on. So you had AWA, you had WCCW, you had NWA. Now, with that being said, you can sit there and say what you want to about, you haven't built up a Rock. That's a completely organic WWE product right there. As much as you want to hate on him, and you do, and sometimes I do, John Cena is a homegrown WWE talent. Actually, Kurt Angle, homegrown WWE talent for getting into wrestling. Even though he won the Olympics, he really made a name for himself in WWE. Brock Lesnar, another WWE homegrown talent. So I mean, Vince still has the capability to create talent, and we've seen this. AEW they're borrowing from WWE, they're borrowing from ROH, they're borrowing from New Japan, they're borrowing from TNA. They haven't created one of their own homegrown talents, and that's not necessarily to shit on AEW. They're a young company. You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to have any homegrown talent.
Right.
But if you use that argument, you got to hold your own self accountable. And so, it's just the way that they're trying to establish this product, and they're trying to make it look like the cheapest. They're trying to put in all this promotion and give all of these independent wrestlers this promotion, but at the same time, they're trying to make it as cheap as independent look as they can, and that's not going to go over so well. It's not. And you have guys on that roster, I think, that are entirely misused, or not booked right, like Scorpio Sky. The guy's an MMA guy. Why wouldn't you use him like a beast? Why wouldn't you use him as like a lethal heel that could go in and take a win all the time? No, you have him doing a promo with Chris Jericho saying, "Now that I get to fight you, my ex-girlfriend called me back and I'm starting to get popular again." Why are you going to do that to a guy like that? Why? Makes no sense.
And yeah, some of these people a bit pissed off at Vince because he's releasing some of these guys that were from the old NXT. I can understand Vince's perspective on that, because they had all these independent people coming in NXT, and they got over so popular with these fans. So then when they come to Raw and SmackDown, Vince is like, "So what's your character?" And if they don't have no character, they're just like, "Oh, well, I have no character. I'm Sami Zayn. I'm Killer Cross." He's like, "Okay. So what's your character? Who are you?" And I think that's the reason why Vince is kind of, when they reformed NXT and made it NXT 2.0, now you're starting to see some home people in there now.
Yeah, and I meant, you look at the stuff that they're doing with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and that's getting interest. That stuff is entertaining. Even the people who shit on WWE are looking at the stuff that's going on with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and they're saying this is pretty good. Now, you go ahead and continue this Tribal Chief, and then you put a match up there, Roman Reigns versus The Rock. What does AEW have that could even remotely come close to that? Maybe a Sting versus CM Punk, but I don't think it would be on that level. It'll get some interest, but and I don't even think if at that, like I said, it'd be me. I'd have Eddie Kingston beat CM Punk, because I know I could do more with him later. You can use it to get somebody, that would be a huge bump to his career. But do you think that they're going to have Eddie Kingston go over CM Punk? Not me neither.
No. Here's the thing. Before I end this thing, I want to thank Posta for coming on here, but this is where I have a problem with hypocrisy with wrestling fans. AEW's like, "Oh, it's cool that they dress up like Ghostbusters and then have a guy in an inflatable steak puff marshmallow man, but it's not okay for WWE to use zombies."
I think both are equally cringy. I'm just going to put it out there.
Yeah, they are. But I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy on that. If you're going to say that the zombie thing was bad, and it was, then you should look at AEW and be like, why the hell do they have men? Why did they have Adam Hangman Page dressed like a fucking Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
That sounds really, really bad. I heard Eric Bischoff talk about that, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, well, you good," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I, it doesn't sound good." I'm sorry, I get it. You know, y'all are trying to be, they're trying to be non-biased. I get it, but uh, I think I could have picked something a little bit better to be non-biased about.
Now, what would have been cool if you would have had like the lights go out and one of the wrestlers dressed like Michael Myers and did something like that, and to kind of promote Halloween Kills. Then I would have been like, all right, that's cool. That was cool. But you had it wasn't even a cool Steak Puft Marshmallow Man costume. It was an inflatable, like sumo wrestling looking outfit, and I'm sitting there like, you talk about, and now at least me and you can say WWE does cringy shit too, but these AEW wrestling fans, they don't want to talk about it being cringy. They're like, oh no, that was cool, yeah, hooray! Adam Hangman Page is the new Steak Puft.
And knowing none of these guys that are praising this probably even remotely know anything about Ghostbusters, because I've noticed one thing is that a lot of these guys, they don't really have too much interest outside of wrestling. Like you and I have other interests. You know what I'm saying? But trying to find something, like even if I was to stay in the YWC, right? Trying to find something to go ahead and keep my channel up, it would be hard, It would be hard just to contribute to wrestling, which no casual people really care about at this point in time. Not a really popular thing. And this is, you have to look at their videos. Just go look at them. And they're talking about WWE losing ratings, So there's not really a big market for it. And the large reason of it is because of this psychotic fan base. It's psychotic. And, you're just starting to see it right now because they're all kind of going to AEW. The psychos are going to AEW. And so, the casual fans can maybe appreciate AWWE a little bit more, particularly if you get in the talent. Like I said, you look at an Eddie Kingston, you look at, if I'm Triple H, these are the guys that I'm watching. MJF, Eddie Kingston, even Christopher Daniels to a degree. Christopher Daniels a little bit old. I get why, they'd be like, okay, can he still go? But he's got great charisma as well. But definitely Eddie Kingston, MJF, those guys for sure. If I'm Triple H, those are the guys that are on my radar the most, because those are the only ones. Or Dan Lambert. I love Dan Lambert. Fucking manager, he'd knock it out of the park. But those guys are kind of the ones that I'm looking at. They have the confidence, they have the swagger, they can go ahead, get you to tune in. I mean, Lambert has to have the easiest job because he just comes in and just makes fun of all the AEW fans. He's one of our, he's technically one of us. That's what he does. Whenever he's sitting there saying about how, oh, look at these AEW fans. They're crying because their favorite wrestler came to work. Yeah, that's great. That's great. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. But yeah, those are the ones that they should really be concerned about, because those are the guys that can come in and make an instant impact on a roster. And you could think of an Eddie Kingston coming in and going after a Kevin Owens or somebody. You think?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I look at it. I look at their talent, and I'm going like, let's see. If Conor McGregor decides to leave Ultimate Fighting, which I believe he should, because I believe Conor McGregor is overrated now, but if he goes to professional wrestling and like that Kobe video you did, and with like Cyborg and with Ronda Rousey and all them, none of those UFC legends talk about AEW. They don't talk about going to AEW. They talk about going to WWE. Now, of course, if you're about the money and you want to get a big giant paycheck for doing shitty ass work, then yeah, I would sign with AEW. But if I want to put in the work, travel all around the globe, see all these beautiful countries out in the world, and and have a more of a structured business, then I would go with WWE.
Well, think about MJF in a tag team with The Miz. How successful it could be. The Miz, John Morrison, and MJF. Boy, that'd be terrific. You know what I'm saying? That'd be great for WWE. And I hate to sit there, and it does sound like I'm biased, and there's a good reason for it. I just don't think that there's going to be a base for AEW right now. I just don't. Maybe Tony sells it. Maybe he sells it to somebody like one of the guys that I respect the most is Billy Corgan still. Maybe he sells it to somebody like that, and somebody can do something with it, because I think the potential's there. But yeah, I'm kind of like you at this point, man. And ultimately, it's not good for wrestling. Wrestling is dying, which is the title of this video. And the sheer fact that everybody's just cheering that they're on the Titanic and it's going down is just absolutely it just befuddles the shit out of me, because that's what it is. You just have, I remember I did a meme of two ships sinking, right? One was NXT, the other was AEW. And then the AEW fans were on their little ship saying, hey, look, everybody, it's okay. They're sinking faster than we are. Because that's kind of like what it looks like. But it's, we can tell right now with no NXT. Well, NXT 2.0 actually ended up beating, from what I am to understand, AEW in the ratings. So,
But they didn't do the key demo.
Yeah, the key demo that nobody cares about. You're the only ones that talk about a key demo. You and the dirt sheets. That's it.
Here's one thing I'll say before we end it is the next couple of wrestling videos you're going to see from me, I'm going to start talking about the biographics of these wrestlers. I want to talk about like how Undertaker became Undertaker. Those are things that I would rather do. Those are more, to me, that's more entertaining than having this like back and forth discussion with people about AEW wrestling. Than to talk about that, because it's been proven. That's the reason why they attack Steven Rose too. Steven Rose does stuff that's not just about wrestling. He does all other stuff. And they attack Steven Rose, they attack you on that, and I'm just like, where's the irony?
Yeah, and that didn't make any sense that they went after Steven Rose so hard. But yeah, they did. But Steven Rose came on my channel. We did some back and forths with these guys. But ultimately, Steven Rose has an uncle that's in professional wrestling. You've done some professional wrestling in the past. So it's not just, tongue in cheek. These, people, they either know people or they were in the independent scene. And so, yeah, it's funny how they will, and I know some independent wrestlers too, and it's just funny how they don't get it. And like I said, it is still, at the end of the day, regardless of your political positions, it's still entertainment. So you got to put that stuff aside. And the more you try to incorporate, this is one of the reasons why I got into it with fucking Rosemary, dude. It's because she didn't want to put her political stuff aside, and she wanted to, make it personal with people. And it's like, nah, okay. Look, if I want to eat at Chick-fil-A, I'm going to eat at Chick-fil-A. You don't pay one bill in my house. You don't make, you're not paying me. You know, you're not putting a roof over my head and stuff like that. So for you to come out and be so vehemently because of Chick-fil-A's position to go ahead and attack, that's not right. That's not right at all. It's kind of, you're hurting yourself, because those people who like Chick-fil-A, that believe in Chick-fil-A for whatever reason, those people who support Chick-fil-A, you know, Chick-fil-A has the right to do with their money what they want to do with their money. And so, you know, you shouldn't, you know, and so we got into it. We got into it.
And you saying that, Poston, they're going to come around and they're going to turn it around and say, well, if that's the case, Poston, then Tony Khan has a right to do what he wants to do with AEW because it's his money.
No, he can do whatever he wants to do, but it's my right not to like the product and to call it out. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm an independent YouTuber, and I'm not an entertainer by any stretch. I do parodies and stuff, and I do try to entertain people who sub to my YouTube channel. So a lot of my stuff is built on having a political position, calling out political agendas, and showing how hypocritical those political agendas are. That's my YouTube channel. When you're an entertainer, it's okay to have these opinions. It's okay to have these positions. It's okay to sit there and even jump on board with like the Epstein's not dead stuff, which EC3 did. You know what I'm saying? And to go ahead and make light of it or whatever it is. But to sit there and vehemently go ahead and say, well, if you like Chick-fil-A, you're dead to me, that's totally different. You know what I'm saying? That's totally crossing a line there. And so, yeah, it's that's totally different. That's taking it way too far. And, you know, you see like these, and when they do that, it turns me off personally. So, you know, and I like Rosemary. I think she's a great, you know, character. I think she's kind of slowed down a little bit because whenever I went back to Impact, I wanted to see how she was doing and if she was taking in. So, you know, I looked at some of her matches and, you know, she did get an injury and she just never, she doesn't look the same. Like her matches were fucking badass back in the days. She had,
I love Rosemary. Yeah.
yeah, she had the character and she was willing to take some serious bumps. I mean, some really good, especially with her and Mia Yim. Man, those matches were fucking awesome, dude. And so whenever I went back to watch TNA second time, she, you know, you could tell she wasn't the same Rosemary. She wasn't like she was. I think it's good that she's back with Decay. I'm gonna have to check her out again, you know, because I don't watch it as religiously as I used to. But yeah, I mean, yeah, she, whenever she was doing that stuff, she had the look. She's an attractive lady. She had the demeanor. She, you know, fit that character so well. And the fact that she was willing to go ahead and, you know, so I respected her from that. But I'm not going to sit there and, you know, have you sit there and say, oh, well, you're gay to me and you need to do it. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. You're a cool person. We have a lot of common interests. And, you know, scary movies, comic books, all that shit that I'm into. But, yeah, it's the same as, you know, anybody else. You're crossing the line there. And like I said, I muckraked her. What can I say? I did a video response to her, eating fucking Chick-fil-A, loving every minute of the fucking Chick-fil-A while I was making a video response. That's my whole point. And so, yeah, it's, you know, when they do that, it's not so good.
Well, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. A guy like Poston does a lot of good stuff on here that's about political, and he does a lot of good things about conspiracy theories. And I know some of y'all like to make fun of him on that, but he's got some really good points on it. And one of my favorite videos that you did recently was with Steven Rose, where y'all were talking about the end of the world and, you know, and all that other stuff. I thought that was a, you know, very good intellectual talk. I'm not going to waste all my time talking to AEW fans about this. Now, Poston knows I did a TikTok video about AEW, and that is coming on the channel. It's probably going to trigger a bunch of people, but here's the thing, though. They like to make fun of impressions, like, "Oh, you did a good impression." Well, how's this one for a change? I tell you what, if I ever saw one of you million mile bastards, I would kick you in the gut, drop you on that stack of dimes that you call a next son, and that's the bottom line.
They can't do that.
Oh, okay. You know what we're gonna do, man? Me and Poster, man, we're gonna take over the world, man. Because of Sosa. You know, Sosa told us, man, that AEW is nothing but a fucking Guaylo company.
Yeah, my Hannibal wasn't as good as that for sure. I went back and heard Hannibal. I was like, I can't do Hannibal.
Here it goes. Here's that one for him. You know what you got to do. You know, AEW is a bunch of girly men. They don't know how to do their sit-ups and their triceps and their biceps. Yeah.
I had a square and a rectangle.
Yeah, rectangle, get to the
job. My second child is a rectangle.
Give me a couple weeks and I can do Tony Khan. Give me a couple weeks and I'll listen to Tony Khan and I will perfectly do a Tony Khan impersonation on her.
Technically, Tony Khan sounds like my virgin. Like, you know, guys, this is great. That's kind of like what Tony Khan sounds like for real in real life. But I like to do the what I call the Hindu, actually, because it's more of an Indian accent. But I like to confuse it with Saudi Arabian. That way it'll trigger. So I go out of my way to trigger the AEW fan. So it's like, oh la 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 la, my name is Tony Khan, and I like to party, and yeah, will you please support my la 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 la? So I like to trigger them because it doesn't sound anything like Tony Khan. It doesn't, and I can hear their tears all the way here in Texas. I can smell it. It's just your tears rolling down your face whenever I make fun of Tony Khan. Yeah.
I'm about to put a nail in these AEW fans' coffins here. It's nothing worse than getting trashed on by Mickey Mouse. You know what it is? You know what it is, Bucks? This company sucks. Disney should buy
it. What'd you say? You better shut the fuck up.
Yeah. I do it again. Yeah.
Or the best one is Clint Eastwood, because all you got to do is go, well, I guess it's time for you to get your shit and get out.
And then he could do like, what was it? Like, what's his name? Christopher Walken. You know, I don't care about you AEW fans because you wear Star Wars underwear.
Or like Barney from The Simpsons. Well, you know, I like to drink beer, and you know, that's the only thing I'm really doing over here at AEW. And I'm here for the ice cream bars.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's nasty.
Well, I reckon if you get me some of them there biscuits and gravy, you know, I could probably say a few words about Tony Khan.
Where's that Tony Khan at? You got some biscuits and over there. Yep. You see, that's actually having talent there, guys. If I can actually do a whole entire video just talking that way. As a matter of fact, Poston knows I'm doing a video soon that's probably going to trigger some AEW fans. It's from one of the really great movies of our time. A really great comedian back in the day. So, you guys look forward to that because you probably are going to be like, how dare him talk like that?
Yeah. And to be fair, freaking Big Kev used to come onto my show, and we used to sit there and do TNA reviews. He would be Stone Cold the whole time, and I would be John Cena, and I would talk about how my daddy Vince would never let me go over there and play in the TNA yard because my daddy Vince loves me and respects me, and he says they better sell. They better sell to John Cena. You see what I'm saying? It's just a character. It's what it is. Kind of like Michael Polston. I'm waiting for my motherfucking 30-minute response. You know, it's just a character. It's what it is. Really, you know, at the end of the day. And so, yeah, you know, this is a little parody videos, putting them together, having an idea, trying to put out some content on YouTube. That's what Kev does. Kind of what I do. And so, yeah, it's more than just basic drama and whatnot. And
since I got the shirt on, one of my friends wanted me to do a Hogan impersonation on AEW because he wrote me on Facebook saying do one. I'm like, okay. Well, you know something, man. The fact of the matter is, dude, is the fact that AEW ain't got nobody jacked like Hulk Hogan, man. And the fact that the largest arms in the world, brother, is bigger than Kenny Omega's whole entire body, man. And what is AEW going to do when Hulkamania, Big Kev's World, Steven Rose, the Chronicle Hill runs wild on you?
Yeah, it's good shit. It's A&W. He calls it like I call it. He calls it A&W too. A&W wrestling.
You know, you can even go and you can even do the whole like, oh yes.
Oh, William Moody. That's a good one.
Oh yes. AEW's going down the shitter. Oh
yeah. I love that interview that he did where he was, I forgot what it was, but he was like something about the Undertaker's mom or something. I forget what it was, but he goes, I was just a young boy and I was already. It was fucking awesome. Fucking Percy Pringle was a fucking man.
Speaking of which, I know you had a run in with Jim Cornette. I actually met Jim Cornette at a wrestling convention. And I brought your name up to him, and he gave me the god awfulest look.
Me and Jim Cornette, we don't get along. We don't get along. And yeah, we're he's part of the fucking issue. You know what I'm saying? And I've defended Jericho to this man before. Whenever he had his little Fonzie concert, because he gave a concert during a pandemic. Well, maybe we're not all fucking low-hanging chodes like you, buddy, and we're not all afraid of, getting, the flu or whatever the hell it is. I'd rather just get it and just be done with it than listen to you yammer on about how we should shut everything down and stop living our lives, because you're afraid. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, me and Cornette, yeah, fucking fire and ice there.
Oh yeah, Poston. They talk about the fact that Fozzy does a concert. Yeah, I tell you what, the Jericho should be wearing a T-shirt, man. He's got that big ass belly.
Yeah, he has. He has traded in his wrestling body for a more home body, pretty much. You know what I'm saying?
He's got the dad bod.
Yep. Yeah. He's kind of traded that in. I like Jericho and all, but yeah, I thought he should have been a manager and just get involved in matches every now and again. That's what I felt like his role should have been in AEW, has been like a manager type of person in AEW, and then promote his stable or whatnot. That would have been worked out the best.
And by the way, too, if you guys don't think I'm not creative, I also do singing too, and I also know how to do my own jingles. So if you think The Rock is bad with his concerts,
it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting. What a time to be a wrestling fan! What a time!
He's going to do a concert.
Wrestling has never been like this before. Ever. Not never.
He better not talk about Tony Khan. He better not talk about AEW.
He better not. You better not talk about John Cena in that tone of voice, sire. John Cena, you better sell.
And for some of you guys, I don't really like John Cena either, but for some of you guys that shit on John Cena, he came back. He did, he came back and did dropped Roman Reigns. He was having some higher rated segments with Roman Reigns. Did some house shows when he wasn't supposed to, and he still was the highest merchandise guy for those 2 months. So I'm gonna let you guys on know about that one.
Oh, you better go ahead. Watch the A&W wrestling fans get together. It's going to be a triggering alert. They're going to be triggered for sure with that. Are you telling me that John Cena outsold CM Punk in merch? Uh-oh.
I muted myself because that was so fucking funny. But yeah, I mean, what are you guys gonna do? Like, oh, they're gonna come back and say, "Well, CM Punk's merch went on to the Pro Wrestling Tees."
Yeah. And the sad thing is, man, this is a sad thing. I would really like these independents to do good. I'm all about independence. I think Kev's all about independence.
Mm-hmm.
The sheer fact that you, at some point in time, we have to require you to put effort into your product and make it quality for us to invest in. And that's the bottom line. And it's not. Having a bunch of these radicalized, psychotic fans attacking people is not going to make people invest into your product. Not the kind of people that you want. Because Disco Inferno called this out. You have the psychos in black shirts that are up there jumping and crying for ice cream bars in the crowd, and that doesn't attract a casual fan base. And, you know, with them acting so freaking over the top, cathartic, and ridiculous, and taking everything out of context intentionally, as we could see by their videos and whatnot, it's not helping y'all at all. It's not hurting me. You know, keep making the videos on me. Keep going ahead and having these cathartic ramblings that make no sense to anybody outside of your echo chamber. You can go ahead and make fun of Kevin. You can go ahead and keep making fun of Stephen Rose. It's not hurting us at all. You know, the people that are here to watch our content are still going to sit there. And I went as Captain Jack Sparrow for Halloween at one time. But, yeah, it's not going to hurt us at all. It's, you know, actually these people here are still going to leave their comments. They're going to still give us positive feedback. So, yeah, it's not hurting us for you to come back and mass dislike our videos and whatnot with all your sock accounts. We're still going to get the likes that we get from the people who appreciate what we do on here.
One of these days, posting, there's going to be a video for me on here. They don't know when, they won't know where. But there's going to be a video soon where I'm going to say something bad about AEW fans. And when they click the video, it's going to be nothing but never going to give you up, never going to let you down.
That would be fucking hilarious, dude. Rickroll these mofos. And they'll still click on it. They can't have it. What? You're rewatching and you're going to get like 120 views in the first 5 minutes of that video. And it's going to be all these AEW fans. Well, I'm trying to figure out what Rick Astley is going to say about AEW. Because they're just going to rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it. See
It'll
what
be like a bunch of dislikes. Hey, dislikes are fine. That means I'm doing my job. Either you get a like or a dislike, I'm doing my job. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, this ain't my job. This ain't what I do for a living. You know, I still work and do security. I got my own paranormal group that I'm working on at the beginning of the year and stuff like that. So if you guys can go ahead and go like how you want.
Which, you know what I'm trying to get into. And,
Yep.
you know, got a couple of job offers. It'll probably take a while before I get on, but I've got another job offer I can because it's a worker's market right now. So, I constantly, in fact, I got a text message right now while I'm sitting here on this thing, from another place. So, yeah, I'll have to check that out when I get off. But yeah, I mean, it's a worker's market out there right now. So anybody who actually likes to contribute to society, instead of staying here on YouTube and, crying about everything on AEW, maybe you should consider going out and getting one of these jobs.
I hope you're proud of yourself because what you've done is proved without a shadow of a doubt you are the world's dumbest son of a bitch.
Who was Stone Cold talking about? Oh my god.
No, is he saying that A&W fans are the world's dumbest sons of bitches?
Anyways, we kind of basically stated why we don't like pro wrestling. Poston's talked about it. I've talked about it. I'm expecting a video being done about this, and if it does, it's whatever. I appreciate from the bottom of my heart that you keep me in your thoughts, and you like doing videos and stuff like that. I mean, that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I have a fangirls for me and stuff like that, and that's fine. But Poston said what he had to say. I had to say what I had to say. We explained why pro wrestling is dying. In the comments later, for some of you casual fans, if you want to tell us why you think pro wrestling is dying or why you don't think pro wrestling is dying, all comments are welcome, good and bad. And this is Big Kev from Big Kev's World. Like, share, and sub. And if you don't, Stone Cold Steve Austin will come and whoop your ass.